So yeah, my name is Scott Tracy. I'm consulting solutions engineer for application security for Barracuda in EMEA. First, I want to step back slightly and just discuss web applications. So everything is a web application. To talk about application security, you want to make sure that everybody understands what a web application actually is. It's not just a website or a web page. It is also a mobile application. It's software that runs on a server and interfaces with a client, and that client can be your web browser, can be your mobile app, but it can also be an API, an application programmable interface. And obviously the world has changed dramatically. Our lives have become very digital and consist of digital experiences, and these are being served by these web applications, which have become central to how businesses are now operating. Now, these applications are a gateway to large amounts of data, including sensitive data such as financial information, credit card numbers, personally identifiable information such as passports, driving licenses, identity cards, and social security information, and obviously much, much more. So it's no surprise that applications are increasingly targeted by hackers who are looking to get access to this information for their own financial gain. And unfortunately, applications are vulnerable to attack. As we can see here, 92% of web applications have an exploitable vulnerability. Mobile applications have at least one critical or high severity issue. 68% of DDoS attacks are targeting the application layer, and yet only 10% of web applications are currently being protected by a web application firewall. This is a huge opportunity for you as a Barracuda partner. And just look at the market analysis from Gartner. They're showing a growth across the application security sector of over 10% year on year. So applications are ubiquitous, and as the research shows, they're underprotected. Why do we have such a big problem? You know, why are they underprotected? Well, one reason is many organizations think that they're already protected by their network firewall. But network firewalls, or layer 3-4 firewalls, don't protect applications because by definition, incoming traffic is allowed. You can think of this as a gate at the airport. You get to that, go through that gate to get on the plane, and that will take you to the destination, the server that you want to get to. If you open that gate, anybody can walk through it. If it didn't allow this, then web applications would not be reachable, you know, through the firewall. It's as simple as that. The firewall is doing its job. It's just opening the gate. If we look at unified threat management or next generation firewalls, what get referred to as application aware firewalls, well, their job is to let known good traffic through, but keep the bad traffic out. The issue that we have here is that the web protocols, HTTP, Hypertext Transport Protocol, are known good traffic. We could think of this as, using our airport analogy, as the boarding pass. So we now are making sure that before we can go through the gate to get on the airplane, we have a boarding pass. We're allowed to go. And of course, that means that the hackers can actually piggyback their attacks onto somebody that's legitimately allowed to board. So it ends up that the next-gen firewalls will pass these harmful requests right along with the non-malicious traffic because the web protocols are known good traffic. So of course, we can introduce intrusion detection and prevention, which could either be a separate appliance or part of a next-gen firewall. Of course, these rely on basic signature patterns for known attacks. So using our analogy, what we're now doing is performing a security check for known contraband. You know, it's the check, have you got any guns? Have you got a knife? You know, that kind of thing. And of course, bringing that back to HTTP, what we're doing is we're making sure that the web application is using correct CSS, JavaScript, XML, JSON. But what it can't do is it can't actually inspect what is in the sort of to a deep layer, what is going on within these actual protocols. So it can't see if they're being attacked but within the application. To look at it another way, how do you tell good application code from bad application code? Simply by using signatures to match the patterns. So meanwhile, we have a web application firewall which secures web servers by intercepting all the HTTP traffic, including encrypted HTTPS traffic. This inspects it for attacks contained in the web application protocols. You can think of this as a full baggage search using our airport analogy. At the simplest level, we can stop things never seen before. So for an example, with a bit of humor, if somebody does something really crazy, it's not allowed. And it's going to get denied, whether it's a bad thing or not. We refer to this as positive profiling. But WAF shouldn't stop there. It should also inspect the return journey. What we want to do here is make sure that if a web server has been compromised via another sideways attack, for example, there is a malicious insider who has uploaded a file with the customer database for the organization. When he goes home and tries to download it, that is a legitimate request. You know, give me this file. The WAF can be set up so that it can detect the sensitive data. For example, the credit card numbers of those customers or other identifiable information strings, such as account numbers. Effectively, we're talking about data leak prevention. So we can stop sensitive data leaking out as well. Of course, there are other reasons WAFs are not being widely deployed. So let's examine these first by talking a bit about the issues we find our customers dealing with today. Digital transformation is fundamentally changing today's enterprises, making data and applications key to doing business. So who's driving the change? Well, arguably it's now the elephant in the room, the COVID pandemic, which has caused a sudden massive shift to home working. Of course, This requires significant agility within the business in order to meet these changing requirements. And the IT department must take on new processes such as DevOps, DevSecOps, and other agile methodologies. There's also the argument about moving into public cloud to provide enterprises with flexibility to develop and update business applications faster. However, while applications are being developed and deployed faster than ever, secure practices are not keeping pace, often resulting in significant security debt, which is a worry for businesses because it creates a continuously growing list of open vulnerabilities, which will crucially leave gaps in compliance requirements and creates major risks for organizations. At the same time, the threat environment's continuously evolving and becoming more challenging. Hackers are getting more sophisticated. They are now professional criminals or even nation states. In addition to manual hacking attacks, automated bots and botnets are increasingly used to attack enterprise infrastructures through web applications. These automated exploits are often executed as distributed denial of service attacks at both the network and the application layers. And of course, malware is consistently becoming more advanced with significant developments in ransomware. The growth in the number of unprotected application vulnerabilities, coupled with the increase in hacking and malware, is resulting in a perfect storm of data breaches. We're seeing headlines almost daily of serious breaches to data within organizations. So WAF solutions have traditionally been delivered as appliances, physical and virtual, or as software as a service solutions. And WAF appliances have traditionally been quite complex to deploy, difficult to manage, resulting in insufficient deployments. In many cases, when deployed, WAFs are set up in non-blocking, monitor-only modes, due to concerns about blocking legitimate, valid traffic and causing an impact to real customers. On the other hand, WAFs as service solutions, while easy to deploy and manage, often do not provide the granular controls and lack functionality required to protect enterprise applications. This lack of integrated functionality has required additional solutions such as automated bot protection, which are separate products outside of the web application firewall. So you then have a stack of products that you require to integrate in order to protect the applications. So we have a list of solution requirements. We need to reduce complexity. We need an all-in-one solution, and we need to take a platform approach. We have a lack of application security skills in many organizations. That complexity has also led to misconfiguration, and as a result, as we've discussed, deployments are left in passive monitoring only modes. An all-in-one solution, we need to protect against the OWASP top 10 threats and more. We need to be looking at application vulnerability scanning and remediation, what gets referred to as virtual patching. We need advanced protection against today's bots. We need protection against DDoS attacks. We need threat protection for zero-day malware, but we also have to do this for APIs as well as traditional websites. And it'd be really nice if we had identity and access control so we know who is accessing our applications as well. So we need this platform approach where we integrate all the required elements into a single product and make this product an easy to deploy and deliver a managed solution. So Barracuda have the cloud application protection platform. It's the industry most comprehensive, scalable and easy to deploy platform that secures web applications wherever they reside. It doesn't matter if they are on-premise or in the public cloud. The platform contains web application firewall, but also has all the other elements that we were discussing. From a deployment options perspective, it can be deployed as a service, but it can also be deployed as a physical appliance in a hardware form factor or a virtual form factor for your hypervisor or for your public cloud provider. Regardless of the option that you choose for deployment, it has a full set of enterprise WAF capabilities. The WAF as a service component of CAP is also built on Microsoft Azure, their public cloud, in order to provide the advanced WAF capabilities in a really, really easy to deploy and manage solution anywhere in the world. So what is the protections that are within Barracuda Web Application Firewall? Well, first of all, it functions as a reverse proxy. It interprets all the inbound traffic and inspects for attacks, and it blocks them before it reaches the server. It provides proactive defense against known threats from bad actors, including protection for your application from zero-day malware attacks. It's comprehensive application security. It recognizes all kinds of attacks and only allows traffic that conforms to the security policies. These policies include protection against attacks targeting the OWASP top 10. In addition, it also has the features required by modern applications. So it's got that API protection. The latest version, we have the ability to upload API, open API schemas, which makes it really simple to deploy protection for APIs. You can take the developer's schema definition for the API and upload it, and the job is basically done. As part of the CAP platform, the WAF also provides defenses against the risks and attacks found in the OWASP automated threats. So that is bot and DDoS protection. So because it's also inspecting the outbound traffic, obviously we can prevent the data leak prevention, as we were discussing before. We can check for sensitive data, such as the credit cards. There's built-in signatures for credit card numbers, along with algorithmic checks to limit false positives. There's also information and patterns for social security numbers, and of course the ability to build your own patterns so that you could check for meta tagging for internally secure documentation. So with the Barracuda Web Application Firewall, you get security protection without having to make lengthy and expensive changes to application code or backend servers. So combining these features, you protect your custom code as well as third-party code, such as developer frameworks that you don't have control of. And this allows your organization to focus on its primary business. So basically, as a platform, we're ensuring protection against those web attacks. We've got the advanced bots, we've got protection for the APIs, we've got the control for access and authentication. We've also got application delivery. Barracuda WAF will load balance layer 7 traffic, so you can put a farm of servers behind. And in addition to this, you can control it programmatically. There's a full API. This allows you to automate and orchestrate your security. At this point, I also want to highlight that SoftProm successfully realized a project to implement WAF into the infrastructure of the first credit bureau of Kazakhstan. The customer started to use the features of Barracuda WAF that highly improved the level of the cybersecurity of their web applications. They also got additional advantages such as the application delivery, and of course it's easy to use user interface. So WAF as a service, it's an enterprise proven application security service. It's built using our WAF. So we are deploying Barracuda WAF within our data centers and within Azure, and then we have a new management tier that sits on top of that. So built with the same proven technology, 5-step wizard means that you can add protection to an application in minutes. It has an intuitive component-based infrastructure that allows you to fine-tune policies where you need it, rather than becoming overwhelmed by a large user interface. Again, it has a fully featured API, so you can deploy it programmatically. It includes an always-on unmetered DDoS protection service and provides automated vulnerability identification and remediation as part of the service. So as a service, obviously the difference is if you deploy Barracuda WAF on premise as a hardware or virtual appliance, you have to look after the full stack. You've got to worry about the facilities, the networking, the servers, all the way up to your application security policy. There's a lot to do. With cloud generation WAF, that's WAF deployed in public cloud. The cloud provider looks after the underlying infrastructure, but you still have to look after the security and application security of what you're deploying in the public cloud. It's what gets referred to as the shared security model. With WAF as a service, Barracuda looks after everything. All you have to worry about is your application security policy. And that, of course, is an opportunity for you as a partner, because you can look after that application security policy on behalf of your customers and let Barracuda worry about everything else. Of course, the advantage of this as well is it sits as a service out in the cloud. And that means it doesn't matter where the servers are actually hosted, whether they are on-prem, whether they're in a public cloud, or a mixture, what we call a hybrid. It's also great for transformation programs, because if you're moving services from one location to another as part of your digital transformation program, you can move these things behind WAF as a service without having to interrupt things from the perspective of your external users. So diving a little bit deeper into each of the segments, we'll first have a look at the complementary vulnerability manager. So what this will do is it will scan for web application vulnerabilities across an entire website. This will generate a detailed complementary report that provides a description of the vulnerabilities and information to remediate those vulnerabilities. This allows you to have a trusted advisor conversation with the application owner. So that would normally be the person in the business who is responsible if there's a data breach. So you can talk to them about the vulnerabilities and risks that have been found. And of course, this allows you to invoke sort of pre-sales advice and talk to them about a WAF, which we can then use to remediate the vulnerabilities that have been found. So to look at how that works, obviously you have your users who are communicating with your server via a web application. So VRS scans the application, so it's monitoring the application. This can be on demand or it can be scheduled, so you could get the application being scanned once a week. This allows you to find any new vulnerabilities. The application code has been changed and a new vulnerability introduced, or the framework being used in the application has a new vulnerability that's been found, a 0-day. The report, as we spoke about, can be delivered to the application owners and developers. There's two types of report. There's a high level plain report that's suitable for the owners and business managers, but you can also get a technical level report that's suitable for the developers, tell them some technical detail about what was actually found. Where this is different to traditional vulnerability scanners is it will actually integrate with the WAF to automatically configure security policy within the WAF to protect those vulnerabilities. So we can specifically target security policy where the vulnerabilities exist within the application. And this is referred to as virtual patching. This is unique to Barracuda at this time. It's a differentiator to what we do. Of course, this allows you to manage the vulnerability workflow and lifecycle and provide continuous automated remediation. This is actually a great service for developers because it means that they can deploy at speed without worrying too much about introducing vulnerabilities, because they know that they have something in front that's got their, in front of the web servers that's got their back. If it finds there's a problem, it lets them know, and rather than them having to scramble to fix a vulnerability, they know that the WAF is already protecting them, and it means that they can add the vulnerability into the list of bugs and can then remediate the bugs as part of the normal software development lifecycle, rather than having to fix an issue at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday night because it's just been found and it needs to be fixed because it's serious. So next we have the advanced bot protection. Of course, today's sophisticated bots can mimic human users to carry out pretty devastating attacks. Barracuda's advanced bot detection is basically a cloud service. that combines Barracuda's vast real-time global threat intelligence structure with advanced machine learning technologies. This takes a multi-layer approach to scanning the incoming application traffic using the machine analysis and behavioral classification to identify sophisticated human-like bots, while minimizing false positives that could block legitimate traffic and harm your business. ABP includes protection from the OWASP automated threats and advanced capabilities such as credential stuffing and web scraping protection. To look at this in a little bit more detail, bots have evolved from simple scripts. These were sort of first generation, where they would make simple requests from a few IP addresses. These bots couldn't store cookies or execute JavaScript, and were pretty easy to detect and blacklist. You know, the mitigation against these were pretty straightforward: block the IP address, block the user agent combinations. Second generation, we had what referred to as stateful scripts. These leveraged script engines so they could store cookies. They could respond to checks for JavaScript, mouse movement, what referred to as honey traps. The enhanced lookups could detect these, but they often required more sophisticated IP agnostic approach, such as device fingerprinting. So you're collecting unique combinations of browser and device characteristics to produce this fingerprint, such as the operating system, JavaScript variables, screen resolution, and this allows us to track individual sessions so that we can tell that it's create a fingerprint that we can then tell is a human using a web browser, or a human using a mobile application, or it's a bot. And is it a good bot or a bad bot? In other words, is it the indexes from the search engines, or is it somebody who's trying to scrape the website for pricing information? Generation 3, what we refer to as headless browsers. Of course, headless browsers was a technology created to automate quality and acceptance of web applications. It would allow us to script a browser and control a browser to test our web applications. And of course, the hackers, the bad guys, are using the same technology. So they can put a script together using the headless browsers and use it to attack. The disadvantage is that these can execute JavaScript, they can simulate basic human-like behavior patterns, like simple mouse movement and keystrokes. This makes the behaviors of a headless browser far more difficult to detect, and as a result we require more sophisticated approaches to blocklisting and fingerprinting. These are things such as risk scoring and behavioral analysis. The latest generation of bots, being the most sophisticated, they are the most human-like in terms of their interaction. They're using machine learning themselves so that they can appear more human-like. So they can use fuzzy patterns, for example, on the mouse movement. So moving from point A to point B in the session, rather than being a linear straight line, has a little wave that is different every single time, just like a human moving a mouse. Sort of one example. Of course, this means that we have a far tougher time detecting these. It requires traffic pattern analysis, behavioral classifications, and a high level of information and resources to facilitate the correlation and analysis using machine learning in order to detect these. What we're doing, Barracuda, is bringing together all the information from all our customers. It's obviously anonymized information, but this is being analyzed within our cloud to produce a database of fingerprints that we can then use to analyze the actual incoming sessions in real time and go, this is a bot, this is a good bot, this is a bad bot, this is a human, and make those decisions fairly rapidly in real time. So active DDoS prevention. Barracuda application security solutions include a full spectrum DDoS protection. It covers volumetric and app DDoS attacks. So WAF itself has protection against application layer DDoS built into the WAF, but volumetric attacks, those that are doing bandwidth flooding, you don't want them mitigated at the edge of your network, where they can still cause a flood of your bandwidth. You want these mitigated as far away from your network as possible. And of course, volumetric attacks targeting this are a problem for web application firewall. So Barracuda again has created a cloud service that sits in front of the web application firewall. It's an always-on capability, so that it ensures that your applications remain available and accessible 24/7. And it's available for WAF as an additional subscription, but it is included with WAF as a service. Basically, to understand this a little bit better, you point your DNS record to our cloud scrubbing centers, so you get an Anycast IP address. The client traffic ends up at the nearest global data center. The volumetric attacks get scrubbed out, and the traffic then gets passed on to your web application firewall where it's deployed. The control of the ADP service is configured and managed from or through the WAF. The WAF then receives what may still contain application layer attacks, and obviously it then follows your policy to clean these out and allow the good traffic through to your application servers. So effectively, it's a layered approach and deploying the services in the right place architecturally to cause a minimum of impact to your network and services should you come under attack. So advanced threat protection, it's integrated again as a cloud service. It analyzes traffic across all major threat vectors. It uses multiple layers. It includes sophisticated CPU emulation sandboxes to analyze and spot threats, including zero-day attacks. So an example here was the WannaCry worm. This was actually analyzed and detected by our ATP service, so our customers who had this deployed were not affected by the WannaCry outbreak. again, to look at that in a little bit more detail in terms of how it works. So the traffic coming into WAF, from the perspective of WAF, this is about checking files that are being uploaded into an application. So because it's a real-time stream, the file is loaded to the into the application through the WAF if it's allowed, but it's also checked against the ATP service in the cloud. It's checked for, at a basic level, or the first layer is checking the signatures, virus protection, malware protection, the IP reputation. We then have static heuristic analysis, and then finally the CPU emulation sandbox, which is a dynamic analysis. Of course, if anything is detected in the lower layers, we get a result much faster. If we go to the full sandboxing, that can take a while. But eventually we get a result back, good or bad, and that alerts to let us know whether the file that's been uploaded should be allowed or should be maintained in a quarantine. So API protection. Barracuda application security solutions provide protection for the entire attack surface. That includes XML and SOAP services, RESTful APIs, and we now have open API support, as I mentioned earlier. We're expanding this. We've already introduced support for Google API. We're adding a few others. We have research currently going on looking into adding support for GraphQL. And because this is an area sort of where modern applications are, this is where we're investing a lot of time and development at the moment. It's a big topic all in itself, which really don't have the time to go into in details today, but suffice to say that the product has a full suite of protections around here. Identity and access control. So basically, to keep data from falling into the wrong hands, you can obviously control access using identity access management protocols and services. This provides you with granular control over which users and groups can access the data. The product has a comprehensive list of supported services. It includes single sign-on and multi-domain sign-on. So this means that you can sign on for the first app, and that means you can access other applications within the domain without having to log on to each of them. The other side of it is it can provide single sign-on to the upstream application. So you sign on with the WAF, get approval, and then you are passed through, or the credentials are passed through to the upstream application. The WAF's login page effectively is an intercept, so nothing reaches the application until you have done an authentication on the WAF in the first place. This allows us to inject things like multi-factor authentication. The custom login pages or login pages on the WAF can be customized, so you can give them the look and feel of the organization's brand or the look and feel of the application that you're publishing. Lastly, and it's out of sequence there. We also have support for mutual TLS. So that allows the WAF to integrate into a PKI infrastructure, such as Windows PKI certificate servers. Then you can have your users issued with a client certificate from that infrastructure, and then that can be used to log in to applications and services on the WAF. The supported identity services, we have LDAP, which obviously gives you Active Directory, Open LDAP, Workgroup Manager, and so forth. Radius, and we support both authentication and authorization services. Kerberos is also supported, but we don't have constrained delegation support at this time. MFA, effectively we are using two factors. So what we do is we combine LDAP and Radius. By taking this approach, we can work with pretty much any two-factor product. RSA, SMS pin code, Gemalto pin safe, Wicked. We also have a published integration with Duo as well. SAML, or more specifically SAML v2, that support gives you access to Azure AD. Active Directory Federated Service is a subset of SAML. And of course, that allows us to work with Microsoft, Okta, and so forth. And then in the latest version of WAF, we've just introduced OAuth, or more specifically, OAuth v2 and OpenID Connect. By combining these protocols together, that means that we can handle social logins from Google, Facebook, Twitter, Microsoft, and so on. But it's also key to providing login for APIs. So again, this is part of our story about the increasing support required to protect modern API-based applications. So, as I've said, we support the cloud, we support hybrid strategies. We're the leading WAF solution on all the major cloud platforms. But we started out as hardware appliances. We have appliances now that handle layer 7 inspected throughputs from 25 megabits all the way up to 10 gigabit inspected throughput. We have the WAF as a service, which deals with obviously an application hosted anywhere. We have the public cloud support. We have certifications and competencies with AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud Platform, GCP. And then lastly, our virtual appliances. Well, pick a hypervisor. We cover pretty much all of them. We most recently have added native support for Nutanix. Another interesting one is Secudos. They produce a appliance where we can combine several of our products into a single hypervisor stack, which has its own internal marketplace. So I spoke about API and orchestrated deployment. We have scripts and integrations around all of these, Puppet, Ansible. Puppet Forge, we have a published module co-developed with Puppet. On our GitHub, we've got script examples with Ansible, Chef, Terraform, and we have templates for Azure, PowerShell, OpenStack, and AWS CloudFormation, all available. So WAF's core differentiators. Well, basically, we have a run everywhere solution. So it doesn't matter where it's deployed. One of the beauties of that is it means that the skills are transferable. So if you have one customer who needs hardware, another who needs a virtual, another who wants a cloud gen WAF, for your engineers and teams to look at and work with the product, it's the same thing. In terms of the day-to-day management of the appliance, the security, even the deployment is pretty similar. It's got real application security, so it's not just covering the OWASP top 10. We've got coverage for APIs, we've got coverage for bots, and with full automation, it fits in with modern DevOps driven environments. And of course it's comprehensive. We've got the active DDoS prevention, the bot protection, and the vulnerability scanning. So we're covering the application from all the modern threats that are found. WAF as a service, its core differentiators, massively scalable and globally available. It's currently being delivered from over 60 regions with multiple data centers within these regions, and this is obviously only going up all the time. Unlike our competitors, we provide complete granular control. So there's a lot of competitors, it's a WAF as a service is turn it on or turn it off, or very high level controls. Our WAF as a service can be used like that, but if you need to start tuning things because you've got a difficult application, you've got the complete control to do that at no extra cost. Again, unlimited custom rules are available. Again, a lot of our competitors charge you by the rule. Unlimited custom rules are included. Additionally, our WAF as a service has API security, and again, many of our competitors don't. They just have the traditional protections against the top 10.
Перевода не слышно. Коллеги, не слышно перевода. Коллеги, не слышно перевода.
Hello? So we also have comprehensive security, basically because WAF as a service is built with our WAF. So it has the same protections against DDoS, bots, and of course integration with the vulnerabilities.
Коллеги, перевод не слышно.
Коллеги, Кристина.
So what are analysts saying about us? Well, Gartner, they obviously produce something called Peer Insights, and also the Magic Quadrant. They talk about our WAF as a services ease of use and DDoS. They talk about our excellent customer support, and they talk about our unique BVM and vulnerability remediation integration. Forrester, their wave is obviously fairly famous. They talk about flexible deployment options, our ease of use, great value for money, and we are particularly recommended for public cloud use. So we get high marks for our flexibility and value with Forrester. And that brings me to questions and answers.